Have you noticed that, in recent days, the American and Russian media seem to have coordinated their efforts, both turning their attention to the mysterious large vessel currently under construction by the People's Liberation Army Navy? According to the latest reports from Russian media, two square enclosed compartments have appeared on the Type 004 vessel, and there is no longer any doubt that it is nuclear-powered. Of course, since this is a report from Russian media, readers should take the information with a grain of salt, as it is not an official announcement from China. Let's first look at what the US media said a few days ago. According to their reports, construction of China's fifth large vessel is about to begin at a major shipyard in the south. Based on US media analysis, the fifth vessel is a sister ship to the fourth, with both employing nuclear propulsion and featuring nearly identical configurations and designs. US media specifically emphasized that the fifth vessel is not a sister ship or an upgraded version of the Fujian, but rather identical to the fourth. In other words, at least two sister ships of the Type 004 have emerged, which clearly differs from the Chinese Navy's past practice of building only one carrier per model. Looking back over the past year, foreign media attention on the fourth carrier began after the 2025 Spring Festival. By the fall of 2025, various high-resolution satellite aerial images began appearing in public channels, and media outlets around the world started analyzing and speculating based on these images. US and Japanese media have been the most active in this regard, already speculating on displacement, specifications, and design layout. As the number 4 vessel gradually took shape, the various debates and speculations largely converged. As of April 2026, the prevailing view online is that the ship employs a nuclear propulsion system rather than a conventional one. Regarding specific configurations, most analyses suggest it is equipped with 4 electromagnetic catapults and 3 large elevators, with a rear-mounted island. As for displacement, there are currently 2 differing accounts. One claims it is slightly larger than the Ford class, while the other asserts it is significantly larger, with corresponding displacement figures of 107,000 tons and 123,000 tons, respectively. Although there remains a gap between these two estimates, the overall controversy is diminishing. Recent reports by Russian media have essentially confirmed information that many were already aware of. Russian media reported that China's Type 004 employs a nuclear propulsion system, specifically featuring 2 large square, enclosed compartments whose layout and positioning closely resemble those of the US Ford class. As early as November 2025, Western media had already published similar reports. Regarding the platform framework and propulsion system of the fourth-generation carrier, domestic and international assessments are largely consistent. In terms of construction progress, according to foreign media estimates, the fourth aircraft carrier is expected to be launched by the end of 2027. It will then require approximately 3 years for outfitting and sea trials, so entering service around 2030 should pose no major issues. Currently, the construction progress of the fourth aircraft carrier has surpassed that of the USS Enterprise, the third ship in the US Ford-class carrier series. The US Navy plans to commission the USS Enterprise in 2030, but given the current construction schedule, this goal may be difficult to achieve. A more realistic scenario is that the USS Enterprise would be considered to be progressing smoothly if it were able to conduct its first sea trials by 2030. This is because the USS John F. Kennedy, the second ship of the Ford class, was launched in 2019 and was originally scheduled to be commissioned in 2025, but did not conduct its first sea trials until January 2026. This example suggests that the Enterprise, the third ship currently under construction and already behind schedule, has a very low probability of entering service by 2030. The US Navy currently operates 11 active aircraft carriers, including 10 Nimitz-class and 1 Ford-class vessel. The earlier Nimitz-class carriers are already quite old and will be decommissioned in the coming years. Meanwhile, the construction of the US Navy's new generation carriers is significantly behind schedule, and the technology is not yet fully mature. The second, third, and fourth ships of the Ford-class carrier series have encountered an increasing number of problems during construction. Against this backdrop, the pace of the Chinese Navy's development has drawn widespread attention. The Fujian has already entered service, the fourth ship is progressing steadily, and there are even rumors circulating about a fifth ship. According to previous speculation by foreign media, the Chinese Navy is expected to have at least 6 large vessels by 2030, with some reports even suggesting a total of 9. However, based on the actual situation, the likelihood of reaching 9 is very low, as this figure does not align with the basic requirements and development timeline of the Navy. The Chinese Navy has consistently adopted a relatively steady pace in aircraft carrier construction, with clear technical validation and objectives at every stage, from the refit of the Liaoning to the independent construction of the Shandong, and on to the application of electromagnetic catapults on the Fujian. Each step has addressed specific technical challenges. If the Type 004 does indeed adopt nuclear propulsion, it will mark a significant turning point in the development of the Chinese Navy's aircraft carriers, signifying China's transition from conventional to nuclear propulsion systems. The presence of two square enclosed compartments is a very specific feature in aircraft carrier design. The U.S. Nimitz-class and Ford-class carriers both feature similar structural characteristics in their reactor areas. These enclosed compartments are primarily used to house the nuclear reactors and their associated shielding and cooling systems. If the Type 004 does indeed have two such enclosed compartments, its propulsion system layout may resemble that of the Ford class, employing a dual reactor configuration. This configuration can provide sufficient steam and electrical output to meet the demands of electromagnetic catapults, radar systems, and other high power consumption equipment. If the configuration of 4 electromagnetic catapults is confirmed, it would mean that the Type 004's aircraft launch capacity would exceed that of the Ford class, which has only 3 catapults available. If China designed for 4 operational catapults from the outset, it would have greater flexibility in aircraft scheduling. The configuration of 3 large elevators is consistent with the Ford class, and this number is reasonable for a large aircraft carrier. The aft-mounted island design has already appeared on the Fujian, and this layout helps optimize the forward area of the flight deck, providing a smoother flow for aircraft takeoff and landing. If the Type 004 continues this design, it indicates that the Chinese Navy endorses this layout. There are 2 estimates regarding displacement, 107,000 tons and 123,000 tons, both exceeding the Ford class 100,000 tons. If the final displacement approaches 123,000 tons, the Type 004 will become the world's largest aircraft carrier by displacement. Greater displacement implies a larger hangar, larger ammunition storage, and better long-range cruising performance, but it also entails more complex construction processes and higher costs. Returning to the Russian media reports, their claims regarding the 2 square enclosed hangars and nuclear propulsion are now considered a foregone conclusion. This information has been circulating in Western media for some time. The fact that Russian media is reporting this at this particular juncture may simply be a confirmation and consolidation of existing information. For those following naval development, the Type 004's nuclear propulsion configuration is no longer a secret. The real suspense lies in its specific performance parameters and final commissioning date. It took approximately 2 years for the Fujian to go from launch to commissioning. If the Type 004 is launched in 2027, then based on this timeline, commissioning around 2030 is a reasonable expectation. Whether the U.S. Navy's USS Enterprise will enter service at the same time remains highly uncertain at this point. The Chinese Navy's aircraft carrier development is proceeding at its own pace, while the U.S. Navy's carrier modernization program faces greater uncertainty. This shift in the situation will have a profound impact on the balance of maritime power in the Pacific region.